Between the two, the golden rule and the permission slip, I land somewhere in the middle, which is I do post most of the time. But if you set yourself a target like I have to post every day, a lot of the time with an ADHD brain, you're setting yourself up for failure. So try to think about things that you want to achieve and what's the golden rule you can stick by and what's the permission slip you need to give yourself grace when that thing doesn't feel possible or when life gets in the way. Welcome to the Unconventional Business Podcast, your place for real stories of real people growing their businesses in the real world. Most of us are neurodivergent in some way, but of course everyone is welcome. This is the place for rule breakers, narrative dismantlers, and those who just want to forge their own unique path in the world. You will find no do it my way or 6 steps to 6 figures and all that BS here. My guests and I will offer guidance that allows you to take just the bits you like and easily apply them to your business. And of course, to bin the rest if you like. After all, building a successful business, whatever success means to you, is about creating something with structure and flow, not something rigid that feels like wearing someone else's clothes. Join me on this journey and together, let's do business differently. Hello you. How are you feeling today? Today I want to talk through exactly what ADHD business coaching is. Is it ADHD coaching? Is it business coaching? Is it a secret third thing? Spoiler alert, yeah, kind of. But also just to give you an idea of, in the world of coaches and all the different bits of support and people you can call on in your business, when is the best time to do ADHD business coaching? What is the benefit? How does it work? And ultimately, how does it serve you and your business? And I also want to share with you a bit about who it is that I am actually best placed to work with. So if you're a little bit ADHD business coaching curious, this episode is for you to understand where I might fit into your journey and equally where other types of support might fit in your journey. When is the right time to do ADHD business coaching? And along the way, I also want to share what I've learned about how to create a portfolio business around an ADHD brain, and not just an ADHD brain, because inevitably there's other stuff. You might look after elderly relatives or have children that you're working around. You might have a side order of other things going on, like autism or dyslexia. You might also have chronic illness and other things that you're managing, and also, just being a human. So I want to talk through, when those things are the case, what do you actually need? Like, if your perfect business is a cake, what ingredients do you need to make that cake? And how many of them do you need? And I've distilled that down into a rather delicious little framework that I'm excited to share with you. So I'm going to talk first about you, and I'm going to talk about you in the context of, are you this person, right? Because these are the people that I tend to connect best with and ultimately who I think I can help the most. First off, you're an ADHDer. That's probably the most obvious thing. And you currently run, or you are in the process of setting up a business. It doesn't actually matter where you are in your business journey. I can help people at any stage. What matters more is where you are in your ADHD journey. So I definitely can have the most impact with people who know their ADHD fairly well. You might have previously had ADHD coaching specifically, or you might have just come out of therapy. You might have trained as an ADHD coach, so you've got a reasonable amount of knowledge of how it shows up for you. But the missing puzzle pieces for you right now are how to fit your business around your ADHD brain. Like, how do you play to your strengths? How do you work with your energy levels? How do you allow for all the other commitments that you've got in your life and still stay afloat and not consistently burn out? So you know that you want to be able to do life and business the way that works for you rather than the way you've been told, but you don't actually know how to get there. How do you actually make that happen? How do you stand outside of societal norms and not work a 9 to 5? How is any of that possible? How do you actually make it happen? And that's what I want to talk about today. Some other things that will probably resonate with you. You are open-minded, curious, probably quite bold and ambitious, even if the world doesn't know that yet. And you're keeping your cards close to your chest. The people I tend to connect most with, they really want to make an impact in what they do and leave some kind of legacy, have a ripple effect. They're really driven and they just want to help people at the end of the day. And they tend to be coaches, consultants, creatives, makers, or just in some kind of help and support profession. Like, they want to make a difference. They're not here to just make money for money's sake. And I think that's another big thing about why stuff in business can often feel like it doesn't really fit, is because it's all money driven. And yes, like most people I work with want to make money, but not just to have money. They want to make money because they want to sell out their house and buy a motorhome and travel more, or they want to set up a community interest company, or they want to be able to use some of their time to volunteer. You know, it's all about what that money can facilitate, not it just sitting in the bank and looking at it, or having a Maserati on the drive for what that looks like. No shade, obviously. You go and buy as many Maseratis as you want. But the point is, it's not for show. It's not money for show. It's money for what? As a tool, which, you know, is often the best way to look at it. Where can it get you? What impact can you have with it? The other thing that stands out to me from the people that I work best with is they're often serving people and or organisations that have quite high expectations of the delivery of whatever service it is that they're delivering, and quite meaningful goals. And so there's this kind of pressure that they don't want to let them down. They don't want to do a bad job. They don't want to slip up on their deadlines. So yeah, a lot of people that I have coached over the last couple of years have been very driven themselves, but serving people that are very driven. They're coaching people with big goals. They're helping people that are going to have some kind of massive impact. There's a good amount of pressure there, but there can also, as the ADHD brain does love a bit of pressure, but there can sometimes be too much and it can feel overwhelming. And then that can feed into things like rejection sensitivity, because whatever their client does feels meaningful and important to them. And then they're like, well, I don't want to do a terrible job, or for you to feed back that what I did wasn't good enough. So there's high stakes. I think that's what I really notice about them. So what is ADHD business coaching? I've talked a bit about where it fits in the journey, but how does it actually work? Great question. And I've done one of my favourite things to do here, which I've been meaning to do for a long time, but I think I wanted to get a few 100 hours of coaching under my belt before I really drew conclusions about if there were any serious patterns. But yeah, I've done one of my favourite things and I've put it into a lovely little framework. I am a massive fan of frameworks. Rather than a list of things to do and a 7-step plan to follow, frameworks are more about which questions are the best to ask at which stage, and they can happen in any order. So rather than lifting what I give you and having a plan to follow that A, isn't built around you, B, probably triggers a bit of demand avoidance, and C, isn't aligned to your personal goals, what I do with frameworks is use them to inform what questions we ask, so that whatever you come out with is uniquely yours. It's built around you. But they are kind of like the beats of the story, you know? They are the milestones along the way, the ingredients to the cake, if we go back to our earlier analogy. And because I just can't help myself, because I'm such a word nerd, I've made the first letter of all of them spell out the name of my business, Big Picture Business Coaching. So yes, I'm about to set a bunch of things out for this framework that if you look at the first letter of all of them, they will spell out big picture. So there you go. The first one is a bold vision. I think you need to have something that you're aiming for that scares you a little bit. And I also think it's important that whatever this vision is based around something that means something to you. it's all very well saying I want to earn £500,000 next year, but if you haven't really linked that to things that you give a shit about, it's probably not going to happen. Us ADHDers, we tend to be quite sensitive and empathetic and, feel our emotions quite intensely. And things like SMART goals or, questions like where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Because it's either now or not now. These questions can all be quite kind of difficult to untangle and fathom out. And then it can be hard to know what we're aiming for. But I think dispensing with timelines, dispensing with how you think your life should look, that's the essence of a bold vision. It's about saying, without any limitations, without any expectations from anyone else, without any of the societal conditioning or the shoulds or the current limitations of my life, what would I want it to look like? So an example, when I crashed out of corporate 6 years ago, my big bold vision was I want to be able to spend 2 days a week with my son and work 3 days a week and still pay the rent and one day be able to buy a house and take him abroad. And I don't know how that's possible. I haven't got a clue where to start, but I absolutely want that. It's very linked emotionally, and I'm just going to find a way to make it happen. And it felt very bold at the time, and I got called a part-timer I still get called a part-timer. I'm creating a business based on a 24-hour week. For a lot of people, that's not legitimate. That's a part-time thing. And I'm like, well, it's every single second that I can devote to it because the rest of the time I'm being a mum. So I think other people's opinions be damned. What would your bold vision be? And what would that mean to you? And what would it look and feel and sound like? You don't have to put numbers around it. It doesn't have to be about an amount of money or a time frame, but just close your eyes and imagine who you could be without today's stuff weighing you down. Who do you want to be? That's your bold vision. And the next thing is intuitive goals, which I alluded to earlier. If SMART goals work for you, more credit to you. Fantastic. But for a lot of us, and I did a previous podcast episode on this, they're just a load of wank and they don't work with our brains, and we just rebel against them and it all seems a bit pointless. So I landed on this idea last year of setting goals that are more about how do I want to feel when I've achieved this goal? What will be happening in my body? What will I be able to go out into the world and do? How will I feel different? And rather than what it looks like from the outside, how does it feel from the inside to have achieved it? And ultimately, I think that's a lot more motivating for ADHD brains than arbitrary black and white targets that if we don't hit, we just feel like shit about. I won't bang on about intuitive goals, but I've got a previous episode, as I mentioned, which you can go back and listen to. I'll link to that in the show notes. And the next two on our big picture framework journey they kind of go together. So there's golden rules and permission slips. And the idea of these is that they kind of work in tension with each other. Rather than hard and fast things like I must post on LinkedIn every day or I'm a failure, which is just a fast track to feeling crap about yourself. Golden rules are like, what promises will I make to myself? And why do they matter to me? And what will they feel like and what will they give me? It's linked to the vision and the goals as well. We're kind of trying to do things in a different way here. So my golden rule for my business is that I will check in with my finances and my invoicing at least 3 or 4 times a month. So I'm not saying every day because unrealistic for me. I'm not even saying once a week because, again, that doesn't feel realistic. But if I say 3 or 4 times a month, I can hit that. So a lot of it, sometimes if you expand the time frame, helps it to feel more possible. Another golden rule for me is I will keep posting on LinkedIn, again, regularly. And then this is where it works in conjunction with the permission slip, is I will allow myself to take weeks off LinkedIn. I will allow myself to bowl up on a particular day and go, I don't feel like posting today, and I'm allowed to do that. Between the two, the golden rule and the permission slip, I land somewhere in the middle, which is I do post most of the time. But if you set yourself a target like I have to post every day, a lot of the time with an ADHD brain, you're setting yourself up for failure. So try to think about things that you want to achieve and what's the golden rule you can stick by and what's the permission slip you need to give yourself grace when that thing doesn't feel possible or when life gets in the way. Another golden rule is that I will always turn up on time to my client sessions. Yeah, magically it's not a thing I'm late for, and to pick my son up from school. But my permission slip is if I feel really unwell, like I have a migraine or a really bad cold, and I don't feel like I can do a good job and give my client the best of me, I will contact them and say, please, can we reschedule? That's more respectful to them than showing up on 50% battery. So yeah, the golden rules and permission slips are kind of built around you. They're built around what you need to do and what you want to achieve, but they're not there as sticks to beat yourself with. They are guardrails. They're like when you go bowling and you take kids and you can pull up the bar that stops the ball from going in the gutter. They are the two bars on the left and the right that you bump between, so you still end up with the ball going down the alleyway and knocking down some pins. That's what golden rules and permission slips are. The next thing, and these two things kind of go together too, are an ick-free marketing strategy and a very, very clear, crystal clear message. And the ick-free marketing strategy, I think that's especially important for ADHDers who, again, there's guardrails here, right? So we can really struggle with rejection sensitivity, and we worry about sending proposals and pricing, and we worry about following up, and then we pull too far back and then we miss out on opportunities because what we're so afraid of doing is being that cheesy sales person and being pushy and pressuring someone into something. So you kind of have to push into the middle of that territory, but it's about doing that in ways that are comfortable for you. You know, I've had clients turn up and go, posting on social media sends me into a spiral and I can't bear it and I just think everyone's judging me. And then I'm like, right, well, where do you show up best? Where do you feel you share your message about what you do best? And for some people, they're like, actually, it's in person when I meet people. And I'm like, fine, go to some networking events, find some local groups. Don't force yourself to show up in places where you don't feel good, because actually it negates the purpose of your marketing, because you won't connect with people because you're too in your head. And maybe going to networking and honing your message at networking, connecting with people, will give you something to post about on social media. It's not all or nothing. It's all about aiming for all or something, but building it around you. And I say this as a marketer, right? 20 years plus of marketing experience and 6 years of marketing myself as a business owner. You have to find what works for you, and no one form of marketing is better than any of the others. And this is why this goes together with the next part of the framework, having a crystal clear message, is if you are super clear on who it is you're trying to connect with, how it is you're going to help them, what that's going to give them, and you can say that reasonably succinctly and connect with people, you can take that message anywhere. You could take it to networking, you could post about it on social media, you could have really excellent SEO on your website if you nail down the search terms related to that. You could put flyers up in your local town or village, business cards in coffee shops. Like, if you've got some wording that connects with people, you can take that anywhere. There isn't any one form of marketing that's magically going to make the difference. If your message isn't hitting the mark, it's going to continue to not hit the mark wherever you put it. That's the painful truth of it. And I have lots of other previous episodes on messaging, so I won't bang on about it here, but that is 100% the place to put your effort. But I will just say quickly, your niche doesn't have to be based on demographics or gender or location or income level or industry. Your niche can be people that feel a certain way. For example, how I like to think of it is filters and niches. My filter is I work with ADHD business owners. That very quickly cuts down the group that I'm talking to. So that's either going to resonate with you or not. But my niche is what I described earlier. It's the bold, ambitious coaches, consultants, helpers, creatives. They want to make an impact and they're serving people with high expectations and they're under lots of pressure. And they know that they need to work with their energy levels better, and they need to build a business that fits around them and their ADHD brain, but they don't know how to do that. And that's what they want to change. Like, that's my niche. Not all ADHD business owners are in the same boat. So that's kind of the way I've come to think about messaging, but go check out previous episodes if you want to dive more into that. And the next thing that we need on our big picture journey is time and transition rituals. And this is, I don't really want to talk about time management in the context of ADHD because we have quite a sort of spongy, liquid relationship with time anyway. And I think it's much more helpful to think about rituals and rhythms rather than things like habits and routines. Sometimes those words just come with a load of baggage and I don't necessarily think they can be helpful. Equally, if they're helpful for you, then great, but I just want to offer an alternative. And this is about thinking, how do you structure your time? How much structure do you need versus how much do you want? And really working on things like transitions. So, how do you transition from waking up in the morning to being a functioning human that can sit at a desk and do work? Equally, at the end of the day, how do you shut down your working brain so that you can be a human and go and do other things? How are your energy levels throughout the day? Are there different tasks that might be better to do at different times? Do you like task hopping? Do you prefer to batch things? Do you do well with the Pomodoro technique, or are you better dropping into hyperfocus for a couple of hours? And in which case you might need to work around that and build in some rest. So really just thinking about how you want your day and your week to look. And then also thinking about the 4 types of time that I always talk about in business: time in, time on, time off, and time out. So how much time will you be in your business doing the delivery kind of stuff? How much time will you work on your business, which is almost being a bit more like the CEO, doing your strategy and your forecasting and your marketing? How much time will you have off, which could be a morning or a day, but maybe you're still checking your emails? Maybe you're going to the dentist. Maybe you're just watching Netflix for a bit. And then how much time out, where you fully put your out of office on, you turn your work phone off, and you are just out, you're gone. And you need all of those 4 types of time. So how will you work all of that in together? And then the next one is your ultimate work-life blend. What boundaries will you set with work and life? Are there things will you carry on checking your emails in the evening, or will you not? And will you communicate that with your clients or not? How will you fit work and life together? And what boundaries do you need to support you to do that? Do you work weekends? All of that kind of stuff, to make sure that you're not following a template or doing things you think you should be doing or that other people expect you to do, but actually thinking, how does that work for you? And wrapping in your energy levels to that. Like, I run a private community for my one-to-one clients where I get them all together, and it's called the Do Business Differently Club, but we've ended up informally calling it the Potato Powerhouse Movement because ADHD energy cycles tend to cycle between potato and powerhouse. So we're either powerhousing and we're hyper-focusing and we're doing all the things and we're feeling amazing, or we're just a potato and we're like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. So how do you work with those energy cycles? How do you potato on purpose to make sure that you can powerhouse when you need to? So really thinking about your work-life blend as a flexible rhythm rather than something rigid. Got to allow for that novelty, right? That's what the ADHD brain loves. And our final 2, we've got rock solid finances and excellent self-care. And I often think having rock solid finances is a form of self-care. And rock solid finances is about knowing exactly how much money you need to live the life you want to live and exactly how much money your business needs to bring in to facilitate that. Although you need to look at them together, you also need to keep those fuckers separate. Otherwise things get messy. So yeah, how much do you need to live the life that you want to live and be able to do the things you want to do and pay your taxes? And then how much does your business need to bring in? What are your business expenses? How much do you need to save for tax? If you want to, as I do, work, say a 24-hour week and you want to earn, I don't know, 80k a year and you take off all the time that you need to actually run a business, what is your real hourly rate? I have a delicious little calculator in Excel that can help you figure that out. But if you don't know that and you're charging yourself out at 60 quid an hour for a power hour, what about all the time that you spent either side of that getting that business in? Is 60 quid enough? Probably not. Really figuring out, really getting to know your numbers and having some regular check-ins and looking at your profitability, all of that good stuff. And then, excellent self-care. You have got to look after number one employee. You cannot treat them like shit, because at some point they will get sick or their mental health will take a dip. And when I say they, I mean you. So you have to be your own best boss. And that is one of the most difficult things to come to terms with. But it becomes a non-negotiable. If it's just you and your business and maybe a couple of other people, your business doesn't exist without you. So you have to figure out how to build in the rest first, how to allow enough potato time. Otherwise, there ain't no powerhouse. So that's kind of the key ingredients of the business cake, if you like. And then how it actually works in practice with me as your ADHD business coach is that we meet either weekly or bi-weekly, depending on your time, energy and financial investment. And I also support you on WhatsApp alongside, but we have pretty free flow sessions to move through all of these elements of the big picture framework. But broadly speaking, it's you as the CEO, it's you as number one employee, and then it's you as a human. So how will you make sure that you've got the golden rules, the permission slips, the strategy, the time management, the boundaries, all the things you need to make sure that all of those things can happen? We might agree something that we want to talk about in a session, and then it turns out that something else is on your mind. Obviously, with an interest-based brain, that's what we go with. But often real life examples are the best things to work through, and that's where we get the best breakthroughs. I record the sessions, Otter transcribes them, and then you get all the notes and the actions and you can re-listen. A lot of clients find that really helpful because obviously we forget stuff, so it's nice to be able to go back and remember what it was you said or what you committed to do. And then I also support you on WhatsApp, like I said, for accountability, cheerleading, wins, woes, rambly voice notes, whatever you need so that you know that you're not alone. And then, as I mentioned, you also get access to my private community of my one-to-one clients. So just being able to connect with a bunch of people that get it and that are on different points in that business journey. But just honestly, I have the best clients, just the most wonderful, lovely, supportive and funny group of people. So we have a group WhatsApp, but then we meet 2 or 3 times a month for group coaching and things like co-working sessions. And then I guess the only other important thing to say is I don't gatekeep. So I probably do step over the official coaching line, but just because I think coaching ADHD people needs to be different. I don't know about you, but the amount of times I've been in a session with a counsellor or a coach and I just know they're holding back because they're holding the line. But maybe it's the pattern recognition, maybe it's the craving for authenticity, but I just don't have any patience for that anymore. As someone being coached, I want to know what that other person thinks and I want them to just share what pops into their mind, because I think when we let our brains do ADHD pinball, like genuinely that's where the magic happens. I bring my whole self to coaching, and I think if you bring your whole self, then some seriously amazing shit happens in the middle. But ultimately, like anything I say, anything I share, if it's about me, if it's like an anonymized story of another client, if it's about my really sensitive son, a friend, anything, it's always for you. Like the abiding rule that I have is, am I sharing this for me or for you? And so long as it's for you, I'll share it. And sometimes I second guess myself and I think, oh my God, why did I say that? And that's normally the moment my clients' shoulders drop and they go, oh, thank you for saying that. I just really needed to hear that. Or I really needed to know someone else has weird thoughts like me. Or I really needed to know other people struggle with that thing. I think the relatability, the realness, the being able to say, oh my God, I do that too. I just think that's a really essential part of ADHDers sharing space with each other. And ultimately, I don't bring my ego with me. I don't worry about what models I'm supposed to follow. I'm just there for you. I'm connected to you in the moment, and I will give you whatever you need. And sometimes I'll ask you questions, most of the time, but sometimes if you ask me a question, like I've had a client say, well, what do you think? And, in a traditional or a coaching, counselling context, you might go, oh, it's interesting you've asked me that question. Why are you interested in my opinion? Yeah, I don't do that. I'll just tell you what I think because you asked me. And ultimately, like, everything that I share in a session is an offering. It's an invitation. None of it is about telling you what to do or giving you a bunch of shoulds. It's a smorgasbord. My whole thing is about the smorgasbord approach. There is no one way to do life. There's no one way to do business. There's no one way to do ADHD. There's no one way to do sales or marketing. There is your way, and my job is to help you find your way. So yeah, that in a very, very large nutshell is what ADHD business coaching is about. And I would love to invite you to drop me an email if this has resonated with you. It doesn't matter where you are on your journey, whether you think you're ready for coaching or not, but just connect. Like, I don't bite. I'm not pushy or salesy at all. And let's just have a conversation. And if there's something that I can give you or something that I can unlock for you in a chat with me, I'm absolutely here to do that. I want to help as many people as possible. And so long as enough of a percentage of those people become my clients, I will continue to do that. Like I said, I don't gatekeep anything that I put out on social media, and I give away, in inverted commas, everything, all my frameworks, all my thinking, all my methods, all of it. I give it away freely and wholeheartedly because it's all generic. Until you work with me one-to-one, it's all generic because I can't personalize it, because I'm talking to however many hundreds of people, or thousands if it's a really good LinkedIn post, haha. But something different happens when you turn up and you invest and we get together one-to-one, because then it all becomes personalised. Then it all becomes about you and it all comes from you. And I know previous clients have told me they find this concept really frustrating, but you really do have all the answers already in you. You do know what you want. It's just you need someone to ask you the right questions and help you identify where you're holding yourself back or you're burying something to get all that stuff out. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I am really good at doing that. I am really good at helping people do that. And the other thing I will say, although there's part of me that's like really uncomfortable about bigging myself up right now, which I would never let my clients get away with, so I'm not going to let myself get away with it, is I am unshockable. Genuinely. There is nothing you could tell me. There's nothing you could say to me. There's nothing you could share with me. There isn't a story that you could tell me that would shock me. I have not necessarily been through everything terrible that a person could go through in a lifetime, but I've done quite a lot of it. And trust me, I've also made some pretty regrettable choices. And so you can bring whatever you want and I can hold it, and you can feel safe, and you can let your shoulders drop, and you can put everything down. It doesn't matter what it is. Although I've laid out this framework, and obviously this is the core of what I want to really help people with and where I can have the most impact. If in the moment a thing about, I don't know, parenting is holding you back, I can absolutely sit and hold that with you and help you figure that out, because you're not going to make progress in your business if you're having an absolute mare with your children. Although there is a core part there that I really want to help you get to, if other things are holding you back from that, we can also look at those. And I am a safe space. I have all the support I need. I have all of the strategies I need. I have gotten my own mental health from an absolute roller coaster to a sort of fairly calm sea with a little bit of up and down. I've gone sober. which I genuinely never thought I would do in a million years. I was always the party girl, tray of shots at 2 a.m. I've got myself out of 5 figures of personal debt twice, but not got back into it. I bought a house in my 40s, genuinely never thought that would be possible, especially as a business owner. I've become a cold water swimmer. Not in a million years did I ever think I would do that. And I have kept this business afloat, and I have adapted it and changed it. And I've consistently made a profit for 6 years. So I don't say any of that as a flex, but more as inspiration to say, you can do whatever it is that you want. You can have the life you want. You can create it. But also, I'm good, this is how I can be the safe space that you need. This is how I can guide you through this stuff, is I have done all of this for myself. And there are a certain level of things that I continue to practice, because some of this stuff you don't ever just get over and magically wave a wand and it's fixed. You have to practice it. I always say I'm really big on self-compassion. Self-compassion is a practice. Your inner critic never goes away. You can make them smaller, you can turn down the volume, but ultimately they will always be there because they are an essential part of your personality that's designed to keep you safe. So you learn when that voice comes in and goes, oh, you dick, you broke that mug, to go, do you know what? Accidents happen and I'm a bit clumsy today and I'm just going to clear it up and I'm not going to shit on myself for it. And that's a practice. That's bringing in another voice to counter the shitty one in there. So there are a level of practices that you come out of this big picture process with that you will continue to practice forever, and they will get easier and your muscle for them will get stronger. But a lot of this isn't about magically fixing stuff. It's just about learning new skills and strategies and practicing them and continuing to adapt them and checking in with yourself and just getting to know yourself on the deepest possible level so that you can be the person you want to be and live the life you want to live, and just fuck what anyone else thinks, quite frankly. I think that's the biggest point about it. So that's ADHD business coaching. So as I said earlier, if any of this has resonated with you, please do get in touch. I would love to chat. I'd love to connect. I'd love to hear a bit about your story. That's why I'm in the business that I'm in, because I just love talking to people and hearing about their amazing ideas and stories. Feel free to book a curiosity call. There's a link on my website. I'll put one in the show notes, or come follow me on LinkedIn. Or if you head to my website, you can download my free guide to turning ADHD on its head and thinking about it differently. And obviously from there, you'll go onto my email list, and I send out semi-regular permission slips that just give you permission to think about some of these things differently and do things differently. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do drop this podcast a rating or review. I'd be ever so grateful to reach more of those that need to hear it. So I'd also like to ask you a favour. Who do you know that would benefit from listening to this episode? Please hit share and send it to them too. Thanks so much for listening, and I can't wait to see you here next time. Let's do business differently.